Jiro is a disgusting, ugly, lonely gamer that was bullied throughout his life and given the name Virgin-kun. Among one of the people who bullied him was Akari, and Jiro despised her because she always treated him like an outcast. They go to class, and Shiori, his crush, is excited for this marriage practical. The teacher explains that starting now, each student will be randomly paired with a partner who they will pretend to be married to and must be the best spouse to get the highest rank. Jiro thinks that only good things can happen. Apparently only bad things happen. He is matched up with Akari, and she is extremely mad to be with him. She has an extreme crush on a boy named Tenjin, and acts all nice to him while she couldn't care less about how Jiro feels. Jiro confesses that he also hates this pairing, as he had a girl in mind. Akari guesses that it must be Shiori, and thinks that he is extremely easy to read. She tells him there's no way she would be with him, and they get into an argument. Their ranking pointer ticks down from 0 to -3, and they realize that they must start getting along. Akari yells at him to start getting along with her so they could reach I rank and switch partners. He didn't know about this, but Akari explains to him that people who get to I rank can switch partners after a month of being together. He realizes that getting that high of a score will involve him and her pretending to be a very good couple, and he thinks that would be dangerous. She asks him what he's so embarrassed about, and if they act good together, they will definitely succeed. She whispers in his ear that she will be the perfect wife for him, and that she's counting on him. After that interaction, the rank goes up, but Jiro is too much of an anime protagonist and decides to walk away. After he leaves, Akari is sitting sadly as she doesn't want any girl to take Tenjin away from her, and that she must try her hardest, because this is also her first time doing all of this. Jiro goes to get a drink, and sees that his crush is paired up with Akari's crush, and he hears them saying they are happy to be together. He runs home sadly and turns into a stone statue. He tells her he is very sad, and Akari then decides to be very nice to him. She holds his face, telling him that being sad and mopey won't get him anywhere. Jiro's friend rings the doorbell, and Jiro is ready to leave. She tells him that he shouldn't leave while they have negative points, so he should give her a goodbye kiss. Jiro thinks she is talking about the fish, but then she finally makes him understand. His friend keeps banging the doorbell. Akari makes fun of him by calling him and his friend virgins. He holds her face and leans in, kissing her. Jiro blushes as he walks away, and Akari didn't mean for him to kiss her on the lips. Jiro dreams of Shiori waking him up with a kiss. He gets banged in the head, and Akari asks him what he means by kiss me. Jiro doesn't remember how he fell asleep there, but remembers how good his kiss with her felt. At school, the teacher tells him to meet her at the office with Akari. He looks outside and sees Shiori hugging Tenjin. He pretends he's upset all class to beg for attention, but Shiori doesn't say anything to him. He begins imagining Shiori with Tenjin, and begins crying. When school ends, it rains outside. Jiro forgot his umbrella, and the boys talk about their gacha games, and Akari comes in interrupting, telling Jiro that she will be late today as she will be at a cafe with her friends and Tenjin will be there. He remembers that the teacher told them to meet at the office, so Akari tells him to take care of it alone and leaves. Jiro complains, saying it's the worst day ever. Virgin-kun number 2 tells him to hell with that. Jiro's childhood friend is beautiful, and he gets to go home to a hot girl every day. He asks him if he's the hero of some harem anime or something. This guy's onto us. He thinks that no one needs him. The teacher tells him that his grade hasn't moved up or down in 2 weeks, and that he is at the lowest rank. Akari flirts with Tenjin at the karaoke bar, but Jiro is still sitting and waiting for the rain to stop since he doesn't have an umbrella. He thinks about how Akari is likely having so much more fun with her actual crush. Shiori comes in from behind him and asks to sit next to him. She also forgot her umbrella and hugs onto Jiro's arm. She tells him that she hugged him because she was scared of the bug, but it was just a drawing, and Jiro realizes that she only hugged Tenjin because she was probably scared of a bug too. Jiro calls her formally by her last name, but she tells him that she hates it and wants him to call her by her first name like he used to. Jiro doesn't understand why she wants this, but he attempts to be brave and stutter while saying her name. Before he finishes, Prince Charming comes to interrupt and tells her that he will walk her home because she doesn't have an umbrella. Akari waits outside in the rain. She comes in later and decides to walk home with him under the umbrella. Along the way, she complains about having to walk with him because she would have wanted to walk with Tenjin. Jiro apologizes, and she asks him if he has any real intention to get his girl. She pinches his cheek and tells him that he shouldn't give up, for both of their sakes. They walk together and she tells him that she is hungry. He asks her if she wants to go to a convenience store, and she says that she doesn't. She makes him real omelet rice at home and begins pouring ketchup on the rice. She tells him that he has to move slowly and that he shouldn't let it spurt out too quickly. She says not there, be more gentle, yeah, so good. Diggity. He eats her food and thinks that it is extremely good. He takes a spoonful and attempts to feed her. She says there's no chance of doing it and embarrasses him. He tells her that he will never do it again, so she gets up and eats it. Jiro walks outside with his phone and is extremely flustered. Her heart is pounding so fast, neither of them get it. Shiori bangs on Jiro's door and calls out his name. He sees her waiting outside in the rain. He asks her why she is wet. She asks to stay with him and he says her name. He leans in for a kiss but hears Akari's voice along with banging. She tells him to come and hurry up. She comes in and hugs him, telling him that she wants him to stay with her for the night. The woman approaches an insect-looking thing, and it happens to be a demon. Akari screams that she is scared. Jiro turns off the TV, telling her that this is meaningless. She tells him she is doing this so they can achieve the highest rank and switch partners. She tells him that she has another idea. She bought him pajamas and tells him to twin with her. She tells him to wear this so they can get more points. Jiro doesn't understand why Akari has been acting over the top since she went out for karaoke with Tenjin that night. He thinks something happened between them, but pretends like he doesn't care. She tells him to face the other way so she can change. Plot begins to develop. He decides that since she isn't hesitating, that he will also change in front of her. Lightning comes in and the electricity cuts out. Jiro can't see anything, and Akari jumps on top of him. He feels massive plot developing on his plot, and more developing on his chest. The counter goes up. Jiro realizes that Akari is actually really scared. He grabs his phone and turns the light on, seeing her crying with the lights off. She gets mad that he saw her crying. He attempts to open his room's door, but he can't open it. They were given rooms that use fingerprint scanners to make sure that each person can have their own privacy, and enter only when given permission. Jiro is unable to fix it, and thinks that Akari doesn't think much of him, although he doesn't mind if he gets to see her like this. She is pressed up against him and tells him to say something fun. She tells him that no girl would like him if he can't come up with any good story or joke. He begins saying in a faraway land, and Akari starts laughing because he's telling a fairy tale. However, Jiro begins horrifying Akari by telling her an old scary legend about an old couple that would never ever go near a well. There was a legend that next to this well on stormy nights with lightning, a ghost of a woman would appear next to it. He stops, realizing that Akari closed her ears and that she is actually very scared. She calls him a vermin and virgin. He apologizes for scaring her so much, and she tells him that Tenjin would have never done this. She then says that there's no one else here and holds his hand. She asks if she could just depend a little on him, and he begins to think she's cute. He stops himself, realizing that he just got into a close call. Akari found a flameless candle next to her that she got from her friend at school. They spend time next to each other. And realizes that he just confessed. He wonders if she heard him, but luckily she's asleep. He speaks out loud, thinking that she's so cute even when she's asleep. He tells her goodnight, and when he's asleep, Akari wonders what he meant, as she heard everything he just said. The grades of the first 2 weeks are finally out, and all of Jiro's friends are doing great. Akari comes to look at the board and sees that they are still E rank, the lowest one. Jiro kept worrying about Shiori, knowing that she hasn't been doing that well with Tenjin either. But no matter how hard he worked together with Akari, none of it would matter if Shiori and Tenjin don't make it to I rank. Jiro gets a text from Akari while he is sick, remembering that she left him to hang out with her friends while he is sick. He wonders if Shiori would have been kind and looked after him. He wishes Akari would come early for him even if it was just pretend marriage. The doorbell rings, and he gets excited thinking Akari came home. Shiori is standing outside the door. Akari sits with her friends, but appears to be dozing off. Her friends bet that she was thinking of Tenjin, and say that the pancakes are supposed to have the same texture as a real kiss. Akari remembers the kiss she had with Jiro, and tells them that they are wrong. Her friends wonder why she knows so much, and Akari is mad because she doesn't know why she's thinking so much about Jiro. Shiori bought stuff for Jiro, but Shiori reveals that Akari was the one who asked her to help him. Jiro is extremely grateful for Akari being the best wingman. Shiori brought him a gift that reminded her of when he also visited her when they were younger and gave her a headpress when she was sick. She gives it to him now, and she goes into the kitchen, putting an apron on. Jiro is worried that he'll get the wrong idea again. Back in middle school, Shiori was about to transfer, and Jiro wanted to confess his feelings to her before she left. Right as he was about to ask, Shiori asks him if he will always be her friend even when she's gone. Jiro says that he will, and he remembers chickening out after being friend-zoned. He eats the food that Shiori made, and she's glad that he was able to eat it on his own. He realizes he missed his chance for her to feed him, and begins crying. He thinks Tenjin must be lucky for enjoying her food every day, but she reveals that they actually take turns cooking. Jiro reveals that he lets Akari take care of all the cooking, and that she is actually an amazing cook even though she doesn't look like it. Shiori asks if everything is going well between them. Jiro doesn't answer, but instead asks Shiori if everything is okay with her as he saw they had low ranking. He pretends to be nice, but it is really mostly because he wants to live with her. She thanks him and says that she is trying her hardest to succeed, and tells him that she thinks it would have been better if Jiro was her husband. She says that she's just joking, and begins to get up. Jiro holds her hand and tells her that she can do it, encouraging her and telling her to be more confident. He rushes under the bed and realizes that he shouldn't have lunged at her like that because it might have embarrassed her. He gets scared, realizing that eventually she will be comfortable with Tenjin and be happy with him instead. As Jiro sleeps, she tells him that she was actually very happy that he called her out by her first name for once. She leans over his bed. The girls talk about Shiori to Akari, and call Shiori a sweet and pure girl. The girls think that Tenjin will end up falling for Shiori if she begins making a move on him, and ask her what she thinks of this. However, she doesn't seem to be paying attention at all and her mind is somewhere else. At the apartment, Shiori stops herself from almost kissing him as they're not married. She remembers the day she asked him to always be her friend. She wanted to make plans to see him, especially at Christmas, but before she could finish her plans, the saddened Jiro stood up and told her that he had to leave. My man friend-zoned himself. She thinks that he will hear her out if she tried harder this time. Jiro asks her to talk with him and tells her that he will do his best to be her husband. He says that he'll do everything to make sure that she can end up with Tenjin. Akari thinks that's great, but doesn't understand why she feels so upset about it. Akari asks him if guys like girls like Shiori that are earnest and sweet. Jiro tells her that his opinion doesn't matter as she likes Tenjin. She tells him that he promised he'd help her, so he needs to answer. She bends over the table.
We must stay focused, brothers. We must stay focused.
He tells her that home-cooked lunches filled with love would be the best thing to make a guy happy, especially from a girl like Akari since no one would expect it. Jiro begins helping her with her lunchbox strategy. They cook food together, and Jiro sees that she has made an amazing lunch for him. He eats her food, but tells her that it's amazing but he would like it more sweet. She tells him that she doesn't care what he thinks because Tenjin has a more mature vibe to him, and Jiro tells her that she shouldn't be asking him that. Akari makes him a box of lunch to take with him. His friend tells him that his relationship chart looks like it's straight from an erotic manga. Jiro tells him to stop, but his friend yells at him for calling the idea of graduating from virgin status disturbing. He asks him if he's one of those harem protagonists that doesn't do anything with anyone even though he's constantly with beautiful women. This guy gets it. Akari comes in hearing that they're talking about her. She asks him how the lunch he made her was, and he tells her that it was very good. He still tells her that he would have preferred if they were sweeter. She yells at him because she still doesn't care what his preferences are. They begin fighting in the background while his friend hears the entire conversation. He recites a song in his head while avoiding this situation. Jiro plays his game at night. He wakes up in the morning and sees the food she's made for Tenjin, and he thinks that it looks amazing. She feeds him her rolled omelets to taste test it and hand it over to him. He eats it from her, but still thinks it's not sweet. He remembers that his mock wife is making lunch for another man, while the girl he's in love with is married to that man. There is definitely no sweetness here. Akari dresses up to prepare this lunch for him. Jiro realizes that she's never worn anything like that to be with him. She asks him for a goodbye thing like how he did the other time. Jiro is confused and thinks that he can't do it. Jiro tells her that she's going to see Tenjin. Is she sure that she wants this? She tells him that it's Jiro's kiss that she wants, because it made her feel really safe last time. Jiro realizes that he can't say no to her when she says something like this. Shiori is at the door, and she brought apple pies for them since she made extra. Shiori tells her that she made it for Tenjin, and that he likes sweet things, so she made something that would suit his tastes. Jiro says who would have thought, but Akari stares at it sadly, calling it delicious. He sees Akari sitting in sadness once more. He tells her to cheer up. She tells him that Tenjin likes sweet things, and Akari wonders what else she could be good for. She thought she could get by with her cooking. Jiro realizes that she's a bit upset and attempts to make her feel better by praising her. He tells her every guy thinks she's great, and she asks him in what sense. He tells her in the beautiful way and how she's the fantasy of every guy, and he realizes that he's making everything worse. He attempts to reach for the galaxies to fix what he just said. She asks him if he thinks of her that way too. He tells her that he's never thought about it. She calls him a liar and gets on top of him. She asks him if he's ever thought of doing things like this with her. She asks him again, and how many times he has, and what he thinks about. He tells her to stop. She asks him that he's wanted to try it before, hasn't he? She tells him that he can go ahead, and that she will grant his wish. He wonders if it's okay for him to have this happen. However, he realizes that he has an uneasy feeling, and sees her shaking. He grabs her, and tells her that he won't do it. He tells her that only lovers do this type of thing, and is sad that he lost his chance. She gets up, telling him to stop with this married thing. At school, they are alone from each other. Their counter begins to tick down slowly, going down from 5 to 4 and all the way down to 2. Tenjin and Shiori happen to be at the top of the list, and Shiori seems very sad to see that her crush is all the way at the bottom of the list because she can't switch to be his partner. Jiro is in the bathroom and 3D-kun comes in, asking him why he's at the bottom of the list. He tells him that nothing's wrong, and thinks to himself what the correct choice would have been. At first, he thought she was just making fun of him, but then he realized that she was actually shaking by holding her hand. It became clear to him that this is all new to her, just like him, that it's her first time. He thinks that if this is all true, then he's the worst person in the world. Shiori comes up to Jiro, asking him if he has some time to talk with her. She bends over the rails. Shiori asks him what happened between him and Akari. Jiro explains that it can be called an argument, and he says that he said something he shouldn't have. He wishes he could find the time to apologize to her, but she doesn't seem to want to talk to him. Shiori tells him that he's with her for most of the day, so if he talks to her, Akari will surely understand. She tells him that she knows him better than himself because she's his childhood friend. Jiro heads home, seeing there is food prepared for him. Their counter is all the way at 0, and Akari is in her room. Jiro musters the courage to knock on her door, and asks her to talk with him. She opens the door and tells him to come in. He thinks her room smells like a girl, and sees her laying down on the bed and ignoring him. He tries to apologize for what happened, but she says nothing happened. She says that she also apologizes too because she was trying too hard, and to forget about all of it. He tells her she got the wrong idea, so he tells her that he did want to do it with her, and that he's also had a lot of fantasies engaging in character development with her. He tells her he's glad for her giving him that experience. She interrupts him and tells him to stop and that it's harassment. She tells him he's in a girl's room saying this stuff, and that's why he'll never be able to upgrade his V card. He agrees with her, and tells her that the real reason he stopped her was because he wanted to treat her with more care than that. He didn't want to do it in the heat of the moment where she might regret it. He goes on to say that he hates how awkward it has been between the two of them. He wants to be able to talk to her like how he used to, and to eat food with her. He asks her for a chance, and takes the towel off her head. He tells her that he wants to be a married couple with her again. He gets flustered and realizes that he may have crossed the boundary, and that he wouldn't cross it because she wants Tenjin. She gets upset, and then she starts laughing at him, calling him desperate. He tells her that she's the one who told him not to be a married couple anymore. She tells him that either way, they wouldn't be able to stop because they can't graduate otherwise. He thinks she lied to him, but she tells him that it wasn't a lie, it was just a vibe. He tells her that he's been agonizing over this, and she holds his finger, telling him that she's enjoying being married to him more than she thought she would. She grabs his hand and puts it on her face, telling him that she likes him quite a lot. She tells him welcome home, and they start together back at 0. She walks outside her room onto the porch, and realizes that she just confessed that she likes him a lot. At the gym, 3D-kun asks if Jiro is staring at Akari, and Jiro sees Tenjin playing basketball like a star, and is sad, especially when seeing both Akari and Shiori looking at him. 3D-kun asks him if he's heard the rumor about Shiori, but Jiro doesn't know what he's talking about. At the same time, Akari's friends tell her that there's a rumor about Tenjin going around, and that he doesn't want to swap partners no matter what his rank is. Jiro is sitting even sadder, and his friend comforts him by telling him that Shiori marrying a hot guy instead of his loser self would be better for her anyway. That's how you know you have a great friend. Jiro begins crying, wondering whose side his friend is on. He replies saying he's on Shiori's side, that he's an ally of all women. Jiro sees Tenjin going for the basketball, and imagines him in a medieval isekai going against bats. He sees him running towards a statue, and annihilating it and unleashing enormous energy while he blows up. He sees Tenjin greeting the land, and Akari and Shiori both wanting him while he just stands there sadly. Shiori comes up to Jiro, and sees that he's sad and asks him why. She thinks that he probably fought with Akari again, but he tells her that he hasn't. Shiori tells him that is good because Akari is a good girl, and he shouldn't be causing her stress. Jiro wonders if he told her about the real reason he's stressing, what her response would be. He asks her if she's going to stay by Tenjin's side forever. At the same time, Akari has to return the equipment into the gym equipment room alone. She sees Tenjin is also there and gets startled. A box nearly falls on her head, and Tenjin rushes towards it. Get this guy out of this story. Evil schemes and villainous plot develops. He's on top of her and she thanks him for saving her but gets him off of her. She doesn't know what to do and her heart is racing and feels relieved. She doesn't understand why she feels relieved, and he tells her that he'll continue cleaning up. Akari calls him out and asks him if he's going to stay with Shiori forever. He tells her that he might if she tells him that she wants to as well. He tells her things are going well right now, and Akari begins tearing up, realizing she does love him after all. Tenjin wonders what's going on, and Akari tells him that there's just a lot of dust in her eye. Tenjin holds Akari's face, looking into her. He tells her to look him in the eyes. 3D-kun comes up and realizes the gym locker is open.
It's an evil world we live in.
Shiori responds to Jiro, telling him that if he made it to the highest rank. She stops what she was saying and goes away, but Jiro tells her that he will make it to the highest rank possible. But as he's about to finish his statement, the true protagonist of this story comes in and Jiro begs him to leave him alone or he will be sending him to his grave as a living sacrifice. Yu-Gi-Oh! Card-kun is asked by Jiro why he showed up out of nowhere. He tells him that he saw Akari and Tenjin, but Tenjin interrupts and wonders what they're talking about. Jiro looks at Akari, but she looks very sad, and Yugi is confused about what battlefield he's on. Yugi breaks the fourth wall again and wonders if anyone in this anime has actually called him by his name. Tenjin calls him by his name, Kamo. That's a boring name though, so we'll keep calling him random names. Tenjin gives him the PE room's key, and even he begins to fall for Tenjin. Shiori leaves with Tenjin, and Fallout 4-kun attempts to use Stealth 100 to sneak out of this situation. However, he sees Jiro is staring at Akari in silence. Jiro comes up to Akari, but she just tells him that she'll be late for her class. The next day, Jiro plays his game and gets distracted by 3D-kun and accidentally leaves his girlfriend in the game. His friend brings up Tenjin again, and Jiro begins to be frustrated because Tenjin is always being brought up. He tells him to spit it out already, but his friend wonders if he should, because Tenjin has been the only nice guy who's remembered his name. If that doesn't tell you that Tenjin is an evil mastermind, I don't know what will. He decides to tell him that kissing happened, and Jiro wonders if he's the one who kissed Tenjin. 3D-kun tells him that the kissing actually happened between Akari and Tenjin, and this shocks Jiro. Jiro pretends not to care, but his friend is worried about him. However, he plays the cold game by telling him that even if it's true, it's got nothing to do with him since Jiro likes Shiori and Akari likes Tenjin. He leaves, and Jiro looks at Lord Tenjin, thinking he's happy for Akari, and congratulates her in his mind. Even the girl in his game has left him. He heads home with groceries and enters the house. He sees Akari laying down and tells her he's heard she's got a cold, but she doesn't respond. He asks her if she has a fever, but she continues ignoring him. He decides to go up to her and sit next to her, apologizing that he's not Tenjin. She asks him why he's bringing up Tenjin out of nowhere in an evil voice, and Jiro gets flustered. He tells her that he heard she got very close with Tenjin and P, and that he's happy for her. She's confused and asks him why he's happy. She tells him that she was just happy that she got to talk to him, and Jiro asks her if she kisses people when she's happy with them. Akari begins laughing out of nowhere, and calls this hilarious. She tells him that he was just checking if there was dust in her eyes, and that this misunderstanding is straight out of a manga. She tells him that she's actually hurt because he's not switching partners. She wonders why Jiro even believed this, and Jiro responds by saying that she's been working so hard for this. Akari begins tearing up, and he grabs her and looks at her. She asks him what he's looking at, and tells him to look away from her crying. He hugs her to him. He tells her that he looked away, and that he can't see anything. She hugs him, and begins letting out her cries. At night, we have more shower plot development. Jiro is embarrassed and feels like a simp, but doesn't know what he should have done. He thinks that she won't want to talk to him. She comes out of the bath and apologizes that she had to borrow this because she didn't have any clothes. Jiro looks at her and realizes that the boyfriend shirt thing hits hard. She grabs a vanilla banana and sticks it in her mouth. She comes closer to him and shoves it into her mouth. Jiro tells her to be more careful because he doesn't know where to look. She asks him if his heart is pounding, but he tells her that he's getting used to it. She comes onto his chest and calls him a liar, telling him that she can hear his heart pounding really hard. Jiro loses his mind. She thinks he's being weird and shoves the banana more in her mouth. Jiro tells her that she should be dressing like this for Tenjin instead, and Akari calls him jealous. Akari wonders why he believed that she kissed Tenjin, telling him that she's not that easy. She tells him that he must think she goes around kissing a lot of people, and this flustered Jiro. He turns around. She tells him that it's just him. That first kiss with him was the only one she knew. She calls him an idiot for suddenly kissing her like that and that he was terrible at it. She begins to move his lap up and down non-stop. Jiro thinks that he shouldn't get the wrong idea, but realizes that he's super happy. Jiro is ready to leave and asks her if that's all the trash they have. She tells him it is, and comes up to him to fix his tie. She tells him to crouch down and she begins fixing his tie. He thinks she's really cute while observing her incredible personality. She chokes him for being so vulgar. She lays on his chest and tells him to take care. He wonders what it would be like if he was actually married to her and is about to hug her. She stops him out of nowhere. At school, he sees that he's alone with Shiori and thinks that he's lucky for being alone with her. Shiori remembers that her friend encouraged her to confess her feelings. At the same time, Akari's friends tell her that most people who are married begin dating, and realize that she's been awfully interested in Jiro recently. She attempts to ignore them. Shiro cleans up the board with Shiori and attempts to hold a conversation with her. Akari texts Jiro that she wants to go shopping with him and sees that he has class duties. She sees Shiori coming next to him and hides away. She doesn't know why she's hiding and looks at Jiro. She leaves. Shiori bumps her eraser into him and looks right at him. She tells him to close his eyes and lean down a little. Jiro wonders if he's dreaming and thinks he's about to kiss her, so he leans in.
Sensational.
Late at night, Akari comes up to him and gives him some hot milk because she made too much. She asks him if things are going well with Shiori, and he tells her it's good. She calls him a liar, but he ignores it. Akari asks him to try calling her by her first name. He chokes on the white creamy milk in his mouth. Giggity. He tells her that he doesn't want to. She tells him that she sometimes loses confidence, but if he were to be by her side and call her by her name, that she would feel comforted. He apologizes, asking to pretend this never happened. She tells him no and grabs him closer to her. She's upset that she's always calling him by his first name, but he doesn't. She feels like she's the only one in love in this situation. Jiro says that's a bizarre reason, but then stops and realizes that she just said she's in love with him. Akari blushes and pretends that she only said it for the practical. She runs into her room faster than Sonic. Jiro thinks there's no way she actually thought that. She sits down, wondering what to do. The next day, they are told that there's an academic test and that couples who fail will have to take extra lessons. Akari isn't paying attention to any of this, and Jiro realizes that he's very bad when it comes to certain subjects. He wonders if Akari is good at school as she's always going out. Jiro asks her about the academic test, but she ignores him and tells him that she'll be going to karaoke with her friends and some guys from a different school. But he isn't jealous, he just wonders if she's fine for the test. She tells him that everything will work out somehow. He asks her if there's areas that she doesn't understand, but she doesn't know what she's bad at. She tells him that she'll be fine, but Jiro tells her to go home with him. He tells her that if she fails, she'll be even further from Tenjin, and that she can hang out with her friends at any time. She tells him that it's guys who asked for her, not her friends, and that it's harder to turn down. Jiro tells her that he's also a guy asking for her. She reluctantly agrees, and is sad about how desperate he is for this, just because Shiori is involved. At home, Akari is developing plot instead of her math skills. She wants to give up because she hates studying, but Jiro tries to encourage her. She begins pressing the pencil out and then down, and repeating that non-stop. She then comes up to Jiro and tells him to do something more fun than studying. She asks him what he wants, and that she'll do anything he wants.
We must stay focused, brothers. We must stay focused.
Jiro is losing his mind, but says that they'll just be studying. He sees that she did something right and points it out. She gets excited because she gets it, and works hard until she does all the problems. She thinks that she must be a genius, and he realizes that she improves by someone praising her. She thanks him and calls him her sensei. He blushes, but she jokes around and realizes he liked it. He tells her to clean up, and she says that she will clean up for her sensei. She begins touching up on him, and gets mad that Jiro is smarter than her. And then she hugs him to her. She wonders if his heart is racing. He's still ignoring her. However, she turns around and gets on top of him, telling him that he can take a look. Jiro begins to lose his mind because of how much plot surrounds him. Akari hugs him closer, putting her plot all over him. He turns her over and gets on top of her. She tells him that the sound of his heart is very loud. She tells him that he lost, but sees that he's actually blushing. She asks him why his face is so serious. He brushes his finger on her face, and she tells him that he can't. She then grabs his arm and pulls him closer to her. Akari realizes that if they keep this up and graduate soon, that she will end up having to leave Jiro, and that she doesn't know if she's ready to give up the life of them seeing each other every morning and spending time together every day. She wonders if that is truly the right choice. Jiro walks into the bathroom and hears that she's calling him by his last name, and this confuses him. She goes on to call him by his last name and tells him she's preparing him coffee. She tells him that the midterm results are releasing today, and hands him a cup of the coffee. She tells him that he's got some bedhead and calls him by his last name. She tells him that she will fix it for him later. He realizes she's very happy, but finds it weird that she continues calling him by his last name. 3D-kun appears, and he asks Jiro why he's searching that up. 3D-kun tells him that him and his wife have been arguing recently, and he decided to ask her if it was that time of month again. Jiro tells him that he's a shining example of how to get a woman to hate a man, and Giga Chad-kun tells him that he's right, and that he should bow down to him. Outside, he sees a girl confessing to another girl, and both of them realize that the rumors were true. Mei-chan is apparently popular with the girls, and they are sneaking around with Stealth 100 but feel a sense of utter defeat when the girl is rejected. Jiro thinks about how Mei apologized for not being able to notice. He still doesn't get it, and continues to wonder why Akari is calling him by his last name the whole day. He then remembers hearing her say that she wanted him to call her by her first name, and thinks that it must not be true. In the shower, he wonders if he should call her by her first name just to make sure that isn't the reason. Akari comes rushing in and he tells her right now is not the right time, but sees they're in 8th place. They both get excited and she jumps on him and hugs him. She tells him she's so happy. After his shower, she dries his head like an ideal girlfriend and thinks he smells good. She is still calling him by his last name, and he remembers her saying she likes her first name a lot. He says Akari while she blow dries him, but she can't hear him. He says Akari again and she turns the blow dryer off. She gets on her knees and asks him, "What is it, Jiro?" He realizes that he hit the nail on the head, and she starts calling him by his first name. He continues calling her Akari, and she gets flustered. He realizes this makes her very happy, and calls her by her name again. She gets very embarrassed and blow dries his face. She tells him they are married, so she would prefer him to keep calling her Akari. She says that's how she likes it, and that she wants him to indulge her in the little time they have left. Mei sees the ranking of Jiro and Akari, and warns Shiori that she may lose him soon, and that it may be over before she even notices. She tells her that she needs to do more than his wife does. She tells her that they've probably already kissed, and that they'll end up doing more than that if she doesn't do anything about it. A ball comes and hits Shiori, and Mei tells Jiro that she's collapsed in the nurse's office and would like it if he looked over her since she has to go. He goes inside, and Shiori gets a text that may set everything up. She puts on her lipstick, and Jiro comes in, and he asks her if she's feeling better. She tells him that she's happy that he came to see her. He hands her a sandwich that he got from Mei, but sees that she already got one from Tenjin. She tells him that she sees that things are going good with him and Akari, but he tells her that they just finally stopped arguing because they were losing a lot of points. She thinks that it must be nice and wishes that she could argue with him too. She tells him that she's known him for a long time, but she's never seen him angry. She feels like all the other girls are getting more mature while she isn't. Jiro asks if she's been able to get mature with Tenjin. She tells him that she's never even had her first kiss and worries she'd be terrible at it. Jiro tells her that he'd never find a first kiss to be bad because it would be precious to him. She tells him that she remembers him saying he would do anything to help her and wants to practice kissing with him. He asks her why she wants to kiss him, and she tells him he's the only guy she could ask. He tells her that he's probably not good at it, but she gets on her knees and looks up at him. He thinks this is a dream, but realizes that he must be a man. He holds her by the arms and leans in, but she tells him to stop and that she doesn't want them to do it because they aren't married. Akari's friend comes in and hears the bed creaking and decides to leave. Jiro slips on the bed to cover himself and kisses Shiori. Shiori starts making plot-filled noises, and he apologizes for accidentally kissing her, and he tells her that he will be leaving. Akari has sent 4 messages to Jiro with no replies. Akari's friend comes up to her and tells her that she went to the nurse's office and heard beds creaking, so she decided to leave because there's only one thing people could be doing in there. She then gets a reply from Jiro, and he apologizes for not replying because he was in the nurse's office with Shiori. At home, Jiro realizes that Akari is very late. Akari is sitting alone at a cafe. Tenjin is working there, and the worker tells him to give the sad girl a little extra service. Tenjin looks over and sees Akari. He hands her the drink, but she doesn't see him. She reads that the worker gave her extra whipped cream on the house and realizes that it must be noticeable that she's sad. She then realizes that she's feeling depressed and heads home. She worries if Jiro actually did it with Shiori. She realizes that they're just pretending to be married, and worries that if she opens the door she'll find a Jiro that she doesn't recognize. She sees him sleeping on the couch and sees the mess. After cleaning up after him, she feels that her depression just disappeared. She sees the cups on the table and the chocolate, and she realizes he was waiting for her all night. She asks him if he's listening and begins to develop plot. I mean a lot of plot. I mean an incredible amount of plot. She tells him that his wife is taking off his clothes for him and asks him if that's what he did in the nurse's office, or if it was far beyond any of this. She asks him if he went and became mature without her, and she tells him that she hates that. She doesn't want him to leave her behind. She tells him that she will cheer him on in his love, so just for now while she's his wife, she wants him to just wait for her. Jiro wakes up in the morning and finds out that Akari is sleeping next to him with her gigantic plot. She wakes up, telling him good morning, but he doesn't respond. She presses her plot against him, and he asks her what happened to her clothes, and he tells her that she should put clothes on because he wants to ask her a lot of questions. She tells him what's the point, he was the one who took them off. She then tells him that he forgot everything that happened last night, and calls him a jerk because he did a lot to her. He realizes that he has no memory of that, and thinks that they went as far as possible to go. Then he realizes she has Tenjin, but she let him use her. He then realizes things would never go that far, and then he realizes they always do. He asks her if he lost his V card, and she tells him she wouldn't know that. He thinks he'd be the worst person not to remember. She asks him if last night was his first time, and he tells her that it was if it happened, and then apologizes for him having his V card last night because that means she did all the work and that it must have been painful and difficult for her. She tells him that she was lying to him and that none of it happened. He yells at then she tells him that she's not that easy. He gets upset that it didn't happen, and she tells him that he should at least pretend to be disappointed. He told her that of course he's disappointed, because he's still a virgin. She pulls his ears and he screams that she wouldn't want to do it with a guy like him, but then she covers his ears. She says that she'd never do that because he has Shiori, but he can't hear her. She thinks he would hate for his first time to be with a girl he didn't love and would have wanted it to be Shiori, but he can't hear her. She tells him that she hates him. The next day, 3D-kun is asking if anything happened between him and Akari, but he tells him that nothing happened even though he's always hiding here recently. 3D-kun tells him about a move in the game, but he thinks that he heard a sleeping cuddle. He then realizes he's just thinking too much about plot development. Shiori needs to take garbage bags out, but Akari's friends find her and ask her if she needs any help. They then see slouchy coons walking by, and she calls one of them a slouchy and tells them to come help. They argue about who's the slouchy and she tells them that both of them are. 3D Coon walks in his sly smile. One of them tells him that she's relying on him, and he realizes his future can be done throwing trash out. They wonder how to divide it up, and the girl says that Jiro and Shiori should try carrying the big bag together while the others carry the small bags. Shiori tells her that she should carry the big with her, and Jiro realizes he's been curved and suffers near fatal damage. They realize Shiori is blushing. Later on, they are having ice cream with Akari, and they begin to both ask a question at the same time. The orange-haired one decides to go first, and asks her what she truly thinks about Jiro. She asks her if she feels anything for him, but Akari gets flustered and blushes, making the girl realize that she doesn't even deny it anymore. The other girl asks her if she feels anything about Tenjin. Akari tells them that Shiori and Tenjin seem to be happy together, and that she doesn't want to get in their way. They tell her that they're just pretending for the practical, and that they don't want to stop her from going for Coon, but that they want her to be careful not to get swept away with her emotions. They tell her to just think over it calmly, because Jiro would have probably acted like this with any other girl too. She later leaves, and they wonder if they've started dating, and have noticed that Shiori is also into Jiro. The orange-haired girl says that she'd be happy as long as Akari is happy, but just wants her to be careful so that she doesn't get hurt. That's what true friends are like. They're not like this legendary savage right here. They walk away together and see that there is a fireworks festival going on, and realize that's how they would like to help her. She tells him that her Yakuta is way too loose and that it needs to be tighter. He tries tightening it and she calls him a virgin.
Emotional damage!
She tells him that Tenjin will be there, so she has to look different around him. He tells her that even if Tenjin is there, it's not like they'll be walking around together. She tells him that girls can't afford to relax even for a moment. He realizes that she's always relaxed around him even though he can untie this cord and she'd be in her underwear. She turns around and he turns around extremely quickly and doesn't look her in her eye. She asks him to pick out a bow style for her, and he picks one, but she says it's immature and that Tenjin would like a more mature one. He asks her why he's doing this, and she thinks he's being jealous. She tells him that he can just watch the fireworks all alone from the balcony, while her and Tenjin will have a nice mood going together. She tells him not to bother calling her if he gets lonely, because she'll be busy with Tenjin. Not gonna lie, I cried a little. He then goes on to tie it, and he says that he feels everything of her. He wonders why he's the only one flustered by this, but Akari is struggling. They arrive there, and they tell her that they've set up all the groundwork so that she can be alone with Tenjin later. They tell her not to get worked up because they want her to just get a little closer to Tenjin. She thinks about they've helped her, and how Jiro even helped her wear this yukata just so that she can have Tenjin think she's pretty. She wonders if she can go back to obsessing every day over Tenjin. She wonders if she'll be able to go back to pretending to be married to Jiro. The guys arrive, and they realize that Tenjin isn't with them. They apologize and they tell them that Tenjin wanted to help out in his job because there's been a lot of customers. The girls apologize that they tried to create an opportunity for her but couldn't get it to work out. They tell her that they'll go after the boys and leave Akari alone. She thinks about how much time she spent on her makeup and doing her hair. She thought this could finally be her chance to change things with Tenjin. But now she feels somewhat relieved that Tenjin didn't appear. Things began changing with her and Jiro. She is scared because she's not close to either of them. The orange-haired guy, Turfon, is trying his hardest to get a fish for Akari. Meanwhile, Akari thinks that she should try her hardest still, and that she'll go next to his work. She hears people talking about and sees Tenjin walking together with Shiori. She thinks that he was lying about working, and that he just wanted to be alone with Shiori. The girls come up to Akari and realize that she's a bit sad. She thanks them and decides to go home. Tenjin happened to be walking Shiori because it was the shortest route to the supermarket and that he will be leaving now to go to his job. Meanwhile, Jiro is thinking about Akari's words and wonders if she's got into a nice mood going with him. He wonders if she meant that she wanted to kiss him and remembers holding her hands, kissing her, and wonders that if Tenjin did it, that it would be different and that he would become her boyfriend. He wonders what'll happen to him once they change their pairings. Will they be just friends or classmates? But says that he's done all that stuff with her before Tenjin. He stops himself realizing that he's making himself sick. He gets a call from Akari and answers. He hears Akari on the phone crying. She says Jiro and says she knew she wasn't, but continues to cry her heart out. He asks her where she is and that he'll be right there. She apologizes to him while continuing to cry. He begins running to her and she hangs up on him. He begins calling her again, and then opens the door and hears it ring right next to him. She apologizes because she ended up coming home after he helped her dress up. She tells him that everyone worked hard for her but she still failed. He puts his phone down, cleaning her eyes, and tells her welcome home, Akari. They stare at the fireworks together and tells him that she's glad she wore the yukata. He tells her that she's home now and that she should take her yukata off. She tells him to stop having lewd thoughts. She asks him if she looks cute. He tells her that he would have liked the other bow better, and she asks him why he's pouting, and says that he must be jealous. He tells her that he doesn't know, and this surprises her. She takes his arm and asks for his hand. She tells him that he can go ahead and do a ribbon bow, and that he can do whatever he likes to her.
What do you mean by that?
She turns around and he unties the bow. She tells him to hurry up before the fireworks are over. He doesn't know what to do, and she tells him that there's a video version of it. He comes up close behind her, and she drops her phone but he grabs it. She holds him tighter, telling him to stay like this and to say her name. She tells him that if he says her name, she'll feel like she can try again. She tells him to say it more, so he continues saying it. They think the fireworks are beautiful and cute, and Akari thanks him for not asking what happened today. He thinks that he didn't ask because he didn't want to know. He may be rooting for her to be with Tenjin, but when he heard her crying on the phone and that she's coming back, he felt relieved. He realizes that being married means spending a lifetime together, but for them, there won't be a next year watching the fireworks together. This small view from their balcony is the first and last time they watch fireworks together. In his game, he must pick which princess he must stay with, and making the wrong choice could end up destroying the kingdom. He gets frustrated, and Akari is laying down, looking at her luck and that it's all terrible. He asks her if she's sure and that he can look. She tells him he can look. They see that they're 13th place. They're only 3 places short, but she says that she'll be counting on him and calls him her darling. In the shower, he sits and wonders what happened that day. He thinks that she was crying so much, but she still wanted to switch partners. Akari comes running in and saying that something is terrible. He exposes his manhood, and she tells him that a creep showed up. He asks her who showed up, and she tells him a spider. He yells at her that she shouldn't barge in on him undressed just because of a stupid spider. She tells him that no one cares about his body anyway.
Yo, that one there was a violation. Personally, I wouldn't have it.
She tells him to just do something about the creep. He asks her where the spider is, but she yells and tells him that it disappeared. He asks her how big it is, and she shows him with her fingers, but he thinks it's tiny, unlike the hugeness that he's dealing with right now. He thinks she's cute when she's acting like this. They eat together, and she tells him that he's going to be with her until she finds the spider, and he kills it. She pushes her plot against him, and he feels the hugeness pressing up against him. She is on her knees and looks up at him, asking him to come on. Sorry, I meant come with her. She asks him if he's there and tells him to cover his ears. He imagines what's happening in there, and she opens the door and apologizes for making him wait. He goes in as well to save time, and she sits on the ground, wishing she could have this end. She feels embarrassed, but realizes that Jiro would come with her, and feels glad that he's the one who is with her because Tenjin would never do this for her. He asks her to come with him, and she holds his hand, thanking him. She paints her nails, and tells him that she wants some of his white cream too. He tells her that he'll get her a spoon, and she makes fun of him because he might be thinking of indirect kisses. She tells him to hurry up, and that it's his that she wants. She opens her mouth and looks up at him. He begins losing control, and so am I. He puts his spoon inside her mouth and feeds her his white cream. He sees that she's cheery and asks her if anything good happened today. She asks him what would have happened if they met somewhere else together. He tells her that they probably would have never talked, but she tells him that she might have wanted to meet a Jiro who wasn't her husband. They would have never had anything in common though, so they probably wouldn't end up together. She tells him that the 5th place pair are dating. He tells her that they're an exception, but she decides to finally blurt out the line we've all been waiting for. She says that they should start dating.
What the f***, y'all? God damn! God damn! God damn!
Jiro realizes that he thought she was being serious for a second, and wonders what answer he would have given her if she was serious. She wonders what she would have thought if they weren't married and met him while he wants into anyone else. She then sees the spider and loses her mind, grabbing onto Jiro. This is the greatest battle of all time. Who will win and who will die? If you're the strongest Giga Chad man of culture and my true fan, help me confuse the fake fans by spamming the comment section by saying "Rip Shiori, I cried when she died." That'll make all the fake fans panic. 3D-kun gives Jiro a flyer and tells him about a live-in summer job that he will be doing. Jiro is confused about why he's telling him this, and 3D-kun tells him that he signed him up for it without his knowledge. Jiro drops the flyer and Shiori picks it up for him. She tells him that her and her friend also signed up for that job, and 3D-kun tells her that he also applied. She calls him Kamo-kun because she's the only nice person. But we don't give a shit about his real name, so we'll keep calling him Glasses-kun. He tells her that Jiro is going to be working, and she is glad to find out that Jiro will be there. 3D-kun tells him that this is a win-win, and Jiro thinks about how the summer will go with Shiori, about her treating him and sleeping next to him and wanting to develop plot. He tells him that he needs to get his wife's approval for this, but tells him that Akari probably won't have a problem with it, because while he's away, she might bring other guys. Jiro tells him that she's not like that, and 3D-kun is caught off guard, and tells him that he wishes that this summer may be a decisive moment for him. He heads home and sees that Akari isn't home and he thinks that she may have left. She walks in and he sees her plot is out, and she asks him what he thinks of this. She bounces her plot and asks him if it's cute. She calls him cute and tells him that he's blushing over a simple swimsuit. He wonders how this is called a simple swimsuit when there's no plot armor. She tells him she was planning on going to the beach and asks him if this is too risky. She tells him she bought 2 swimsuits so she may wear the other one instead. However, Jiro is in another world, and she tells him that he's being a perv and staring. He thinks that anyone would stare, and tells her that she is doing too much. She points at the tie and tugs at her plot. He tells her that she's the one who said to look. He asks her if she's going to be out with her guy friends, and she asks him if it bothers him. He tells her that it doesn't, because she would be safer than going alone or with other girls. She tells him that it's not like that, and that she's just going for a part-time job. He asks her what job she's talking about, and she tells him that it's going to be at a cafe that she will be going to soon. He tells her about his job, and she tells him that she can't imagine him doing that. He tells her 3D-kun signed him up for it, and then tells her that Shiori is going to be there too. He tells her that she's trying hard to make things work with Tenjin, so he thought that he should also try to make some moves. She tells him to say he'll miss her, and gets on top of him. She tells him to say it, and he tells her to get off of him. She tells him to say that he'll feel lonely without her, and begins moving on him. But then she gets sad and tells him that she's beginning to feel lonely. He hugs her, and she says she's recharging her battery. His arms move closer to her plot. He asks her if she's going to be changing out of her swimsuit, and she asks him if he doesn't like it. He tells her that he likes it because he's a guy and it's normal for him to like it. She tells him that she's going to wear the other one then, and he thinks that she's been making fun of him this whole time. She tells him that she wants to go to the beach with him sometimes, and tells him that this swimsuit will be just for him. He blushes. She tells him that she'll make his summer a fun one, and he wonders why she's saying these things. He then sees the flyers they have and they happen to be the same ones. They head to the beach together, and 3D-kun thinks that the sun is too dazzling for a shadow type like him. Tenjin goes around showing them the place, and Akari thinks that he's so cool while Shiori continues staring at Jiro. Akari and her friends get into their outfits, and Shiori tells her friend that she looks cute in her outfit. 3D-kun's brother, the owner of this store, explains to everyone how they will be working their job. 3D-kun thinks that this may finally be his chance to get with some hot women. Just then, Shiori came up to Jiro and asked him if he was going to be in the kitchen, so he told her that he was going to be in the kitchen. And she tells him that she might also work in the kitchen now and asks him if he could work it with her. Meanwhile, Akari is using the calculator and Tenjin is helping her. She's blushing and thinking she's so happy. Meanwhile, some annoying kid is staring at them. Akari's friends try to get his attention, but he's zoned out. They say that Akari would like that food, and he turns over. They tell him it's clear he has a thing for Akari, and that it must suck that she wants his friend Tenjin. He tells them that he's confident Tenjin would never want her, and they force him to tell them why. Meanwhile, Shiori is working the kitchen with Mei, and tells her she's glad she got to work with her. Mei tells her that she's saying that, but she would actually want to work with Jiro. She points at him and tells her to look at his back, and says that's the back of a useless man.
You're a victim.
Mei asks him if they could borrow his height and get something for Shiori. He zones out and takes it for her. Shiori thanks him for the help, but he thanks her and wonders why the he just did that. He asks her how to put cream on this, and she asks him if he wants to practice. She tells him to try doing it slowly and gently. He asks her if it's good like this, and she tells him it's all the way in. She says that's right, now keep it there and start moving, slowly. Oh no, don't rush. She pushes on him, and the creamer explodes and goes all over her face. This isn't just any giggity, this is a giggity. She tells him she's so embarrassed and to wipe it off. He begins wiping her face, and she thinks his hands are so warm. She remembers Mei's words to not let this summer go to waste, and she tells him to look at her, to really look at her.
Open the door or I'm gonna throw rocks through your windows, you dumb.
Shiori apologizes, and he tells her that he's the one who should apologize. He thinks that he won't let this be like the other summer, when Shiori was going to move away, and he couldn't confess to her. The legendary master comes in, and asks him if he's brought his swimsuit. Beach scene, you know what that means, plot, and even more plot. Akari and her friends are all in their swimsuits, and Glasses-kun thinks that he will finally have his vision restored. He tells him that Akari's swimsuit is unusual, because she usually shows off a lot of skin. Jiro remembers hearing her say this suit is just for him, and he thinks that it can't be, that it's not possible. Shiori and her friend come up and ask if they're going in the water. Jiro and Legendary Kun tell them that they didn't think they'd get in water because they'd be working too much, but Mei tells him that they were probably just going to stare at the gross parts of girls. He thinks that's a horrible thing to say, because they're not gross, they are sacred areas, and thanks them for allowing them to see their plot.
I beg your pardon?
Later on, she tells Legendary Kun that he's good with his hands. Legendary Kun, however, has got his eye on the prize and is staying ultra focused on what matters. Jiro looks at him, and Plot Master Kun calls him a fool, because the only other time they'll get to see a swimsuit this close up will probably be only in VR.
That's not ridiculous. That's not ridiculous to say that.
Jiro thinks that he's got a point because Shiori usually hides all of her plot. She tells him that they should make a hole through the wall and stick their hands in. She tells him to slide it in gently and to go slow. She tells him to go deeper. Akari sees this and gets jealous because they're being all lovey over there. They decide to do rock paper scissors about who will go buy stuff, and Jiro and Akari magically get paired together. Jiro sees a 20 yen discount for couples, and Akari says they should use it. Jiro says that they're not a couple though, but Akari tells him that they're married. Jiro blushes. The worker tells her that they can get a free upgrade for being a couple, and she thanks him. He tells her that he can't say no to a cute girlfriend like her, and tells Jiro that he's a lucky boyfriend and that he's jealous.
Shut the up, bitch! Back the up! I'm not gonna you. Damn, man. Hey!
Jiro awkwardly laughs. They walk away and Akari asks him what that courtesy laugh was. He asks her what he should have done. She tells him that he should have put his arm around her and said, "I'm proud she's my girlfriend," because it would be a dream to hear that. And he hears that their number is called for the food. Guys come up to Akari, and Jiro goes back and sees her with them. He wonders if she knows these people, and the guy tells him that they're completely two different types, and they tell him that they just became acquainted. Akari looks at him and telepathically tells him that they're lying and he knows this. Jiro thinks about what to do. The guy puts his arm around her and asks Jiro for her name because she's not telling them. They tell him that she's a little intense for him, and tell him that he looks like a virgin.
You're a victim.
He grabs her arm and says that she's his wife. They get startled and run away, telling him to have a happy life with her. He apologizes to Akari for calling her his wife and that she must have hated it, but he needed to say it so they could go away. She gets angry at him and tells him that she never hated it, but he will never get a girlfriend if he keeps acting like this. She tells him to show her that he's man enough to use her as practice. She pushes him away and thinks that she can't deal with this kind of thing. At the sauna, the girls ask Akari how she's doing with her marriage, and say that Virgin Kun seems like he'd have unrealistic dreams about girls. They remind her that she used to complain about him all the time at first. Akari says it's because he was super sloppy, and she wants to give him some toppy. Sorry, that wasn't in the show. Mei says that they can hear everything and asks if it's okay with them, and they tell her that she should actually join them with Shiori. The girls talk with Mei, and Akari notices Shiori is left out. She apologizes for talking about this right now, and Shiori says that she's the one that should apologize. She says that she doesn't have much experience, but Akari says that she's super cute and tells her that she understands because she can't deal with it either. They laugh it off, and both think they could have talked about this with Jiro. After the sauna, Akari sees Jiro and tries to have a conversation with him. She sees he's got a sunburn and tells him that she's got some cream for him. She begins rubbing it on his back, and he tells her that it might look weird if they're together too long. She tells him that he worries too much and asks him if his neck is ticklish. He tells her that he's never ticklish anywhere, so she extends her hands and begins tickling him. He tells her to get off him and what if someone sees them. However, she clings closer to him and tells him that they haven't done this recently. Her friend pops out and Jiro hasn't moved this fast before in his life. They tell Jiro to get them a drink, and he asks Takemiya if she wants a cola. He then calls Akari by her last name and asks her what she wanted. She glares him down and says apple juice. He sees his messages, saying that he needs to be at the beach in 10 minutes. She glares at him again, telepathically telling him that he needs to come. During the night, Shiori noticed that both Akari and Jiro are missing, and Mei asks her if she wants to go on a walk. Jiro begins apologizing again, and Akari tells him that he's apologizing again even though he doesn't know why she's angry. He apologizes again. She begins developing plot, and he wonders what she's doing. He sees that she's wearing the swimsuit, and tells him that she's been looking forward to coming to the ocean with him. But he keeps worrying about how people see them, and he's cold to her in front of others. He tells her that being around a boring guy like him must be embarrassing for her. She asks him why it should matter, and he tells her that other people might think weird things of her. He tells her it's not like they have to spend time together right now. She pulls him to her, asking him why he has to say sad things like that. She tells him to look at her more like he does at home, and shoves her plot in his face and tells him to stare at her. He feels all kinds of pressure building, and he tells her to calm down and talk to him in the eye. She tells him that she hates that they're not a married couple outside of the house, and how he's acting cold and calling her by her last name. He tells her that he'll make sure to call her by her first name, and she tells him that he should have just said that from the start. They hear Shiori saying the moon is beautiful tonight. They disappear faster than Sonic. She tells him that it sucks because she already wants to get out. He tells her complaining won't help and they just need to make sure Shiori and Mei don't see them. She says that's where he always ends up, but she thinks it took a lot to wear this swimsuit. But even when they're this close, she doesn't exist in Jiro's heart. He says it's warm, and asks her if she can hang on longer. She tells him that if she does, then what will happen? Will he be able to leave? Mei hears talking and wonders what it could have been. She gets up and tries to scare Shiori. She gets closer and peeks over, but sees that no one is there. Akari begins banging on the wood, and Mei and Shiori get scared and run away. Akari thinks this sucks and tells him to get off her because she can't believe he would ogle at her plot in this situation, and tells him she regrets wearing the swimsuit. He tells her that she's the one who told him to look. She tells him that it was something she just said in the moment and that he needs to forget that. He tells her that wanting him to use her name in public and getting mad at him, he won't change a thing if all of that was just her saying it in the moment. She gets scared, putting her arms over, telling him that she hates this and that she's so embarrassed. Jiro falls over and she asks him what's wrong. He begins breathing heavily, and she tells him that his knee is poking at her. He tells her that it's not his knee, and tells her he's serious. She asks him to raise his face, and he looks at her. She asks him if looking at her made this happen, and moves back on her. She tells him they can't, and that there's an order to these things. She tells him that the doctors said it was a heat stroke and asks him if he's okay. He apologizes for being mean to her throughout the trip. She tells him that she said for him to stop apologizing and asks him what that tone was when he said you're the one who wanted me to look. She tells him that she has always been letting him get glances because she felt sorry for him and that he should be grateful. She tells him that instead of all that kind of stuff, she wants him to look at all the different parts of her. They've already been married for 4 months, but she barely knows anything about him. She wants to get to know about all the different parts of him too, since they're married and all. Jiro agrees, and thinks that something stuck in an odd spot with him and stayed that way after hearing her talk that day. Jiro goes to the bathroom and sees Akari in there brushing her hair. She asks him if something's wrong, and he tells her nothing is wrong. She asks him if he can't help but remember last night, and pushes her plot at him. He chokes on the white stuff in his mouth.
Out of pocket for that shit. Way out of pocket.
She laughs at him and gives him her towel. She tells him that it's a secret between husband and wife. He's glad that she laughed it off, because it would be awkward otherwise. At work, Shiori is bent over the table. He tells her that there will be a test of courage where people are paired together, and Shiori clings on to him, telling him that she was at the beach last night and kept hearing banging and voices all night. Jiro says that it would be nice if they paired up together because he would be able to manage with her being scared since he knows her very well. Shiori tells him that she really likes this kind part of him, and he stops what he's doing, and she also realizes what she just said. She tells him that she's going to throw the trash out now, and he wonders if the word love has different meanings. Legendary Kun asks him why he's the only one having a nice green springtime. He asks him if he wants the power. He tells him that he can make his dreams a reality and pair him with Shiori tonight. He's the brother of the guy who hired him. He tells him that the test of courage is the biggest event of this part-time job, and it usually takes things in a good direction for pairs. He tells him pairs are chosen by lottery, and that tampering with the lottery would be mere child's play for the owner's brother, for the cost of 30 gem pulls. The girls draw the lottery, and Mei sees that Shiori got the sunflower. Mei goes back and hands Gacha-kun the drawings, and we finally know who the real masterminds behind the show are. Mei asks him if he's plotting something, but he tells her that he just did it this way because Shiori might catch on and refuse if she found out. Mei walks away and thinks he's a good guy, and 3D-kun is happy she didn't find out. He remembers Jiro asking him to make other pairings, and asked for Akari to be paired up with Tenjin, and that he would pay double the amount of gems. He tells him that she's been trying her hardest to get a chance with Tenjin, so if he was the only one to get a chance, he would feel wrong because she would be left behind. 3D-kun thinks that he can't take double the gems when Jiro looks at him like that, and wonders if he's doing the right thing. Later at night, Shiori is paired up with Jiro, and Tenjin is paired up with Akari. Akari is scared, and Tenjin holds her hand. He asks her if it'll help her, and she tells him that it is. She thinks about holding his hand and Jiro's hand, and thinks that Jiro's hand is more, but then stops her thoughts. She goes for her phone to see how the others are doing, and realizes that she dropped her phone. The girls realize that Tenjin and Akari are still missing, and the guy tries to text Tenjin to make sure they're okay. However, her friends tells him to stop because they might just be enjoying themselves. He wonders how she's doing this after all she said, and why he's so irritated. It starts raining, and 3D-kun brother Kun gets a call from Tenjin saying that Akari lost her phone and they got separated while she was looking for it. Jiro realizes that Akari might be in trouble. Shiori tells him to go back, but he pulls away and tells her that he will look for Akari. Akari is looking for her phone in the middle of the rain, and realizes that she's lost because Tenjin was the one leading her the whole time. Jiro was also the one who brought her all the way here, and she apologizes for always relying on people. She hears shuffling in the ground and screams Jiro, but just sees Tenjin is there. Tenjin tells Akari that he's glad he could find her. He calls the boss and tells them that he found Akari, and that they will come back when the rain lets up. He tells Akari to just sit and calm down, and sits next to her. He apologizes that he wasn't Jiro, and laughs at her. She tells him it's not like that and asks him to stop laughing. He asks her if it's Jiro that she likes, and tells her that it does make him a little sad. Jiro is still looking for Akari, but Shiori runs to him with an umbrella and tells him that Tenjin found Akari. This shocks him, and he thinks that it's great she was found. He sits under a tree with Shiori, and she tells him that she came because he wasn't reading her messages. He tells her that he freaked out and wasn't getting anything done, and that if Tenjin was going to find her anyway, he should have just stayed and waited where he was. He calls himself a loser, but Shiori tells him that he's not a loser. She tells him that he's become cool after the marriage practical, and that she's jealous of Akari for knowing a part of Jiro that she doesn't. Jiro tells her that he's always been the same person, but Shiori tells him that she's never seen the husband side of him. He tells her that nothing really changes just because he's married, because it's not like Akari and him are actually in love with each other. He asks her what happened between her and Tenjin after their practicing session. Shiori tells him that nothing happened and gets embarrassed. She tells him that she hasn't done anything like that since, and that he was her first kiss. She asks him if it was different for him, and he struggles to talk, but she apologizes for asking him a weird question. She begins walking away, and he holds her hand. She tells him that once they grow up, being childhood friends won't be enough to keep her by his side. Meanwhile, Akari is talking with Tenjin and asks him what he meant by feeling sad. He tells her that it's like how an older brother gets sad when his little sister finds a boyfriend. She pauses and gets it, realizing he's turning her down right now. She asks him if she became his wife and spent time with him in a marriage practical, would the feeling of a little sister go away? She wonders why she's trying so hard again, and Tenjin apologizes, telling her that he noticed a long time ago that she's been looking at him like that. He tells her that it made him happy she felt this way, but he's in love with someone else. She asks him if he's in love with Shiori, and he laughs and tells her that she got this completely wrong. He tells her it's someone she doesn't know, an unrequited love that will stay that way forever. He tells her that he knows how much it hurts, so when he thought of what he made her go through, he felt so bad. That's why he felt relieved when he heard Jiro's name. She tells him that Jiro is in love with someone else, and Tenjin says she could get with Jiro depending on how hard she tries. He tells her that he wishes for her love to be happy this time, and apologizes for doing this to her after she was kind enough to fall in love with him. She gets up, yelling at him that he's wrong because she's had fun all this time. Every time they talked, her heart would race, and tells him that she's grateful for him, and thanks him because she really liked him. He tells her that he should be the one who thanks her, and thinks that she will do her hardest to get with Jiro so she won't have any regrets. I have to say sorry for assuming Tenjin is an evil mastermind because he's actually a Giga Chad, so this is a rare climax L. During the night, Akari lays on him while waiting for the rain to go away. He wonders why she thought he liked Shiori because he knows Shiori is in love too. But in any case, he hopes it works out for both Akari and Shiori. The next day, Akari is at the altar once again, but instead of throwing a 500 yen coin, she throws a 1,000 yen bill. She apologizes because she's changed her mind about the guy she liked since last time. Her chances may be low, and she remembers seeing Shiori and Jiro returning and blushing. She prays and says that she will do everything she can, so she asks them for a favor. Meanwhile, Shiori is putting clothes up and thinking it's hopeless because that memory of her is popping up in her mind every day. She blushes and wonders why she did that, and is glad that summer break started right after that. She remembers asking Jiro if she was his first kiss, but realizes that it was clear that he must have kissed Akari before her. She wonders if it means that she's just his childhood friend, and feels like she had an affair with him. She wonders what he was feeling when he kissed her. Meanwhile, Jiro is gaming again, and the girl on the screen jumps up, apologizing and kissing him. He remembers kissing Shiori and wonders if it was that same moment. He wonders if Shiori hated it, and he thinks that it was the only chance he's ever gotten. Like the first love he'd half given up on might bloom in that moment. But after that, Shiori apologized over and over and told him to go back, and he wonders how she felt. He wonders what she meant by saying being childhood friends wasn't enough, and thinks that if he built up enough EXP he'd probably come up with an answer, but he has no idea what to do. He decides to go buy cola and chips and go to a manga store. He finds a new manga is out and sees Shiori going for the same book. They're both startled, and he tells her that he never thought he'd see her here. He asks her if she reads manga, and she tells him that she was just around, but her brother asked her to pick this up for him. She sees this is the last copy and tells him that he should take it. But he tells her that he could never do that and that it's okay because he was gonna go shopping after this anyway. She says he really is kind and thanks him. He thinks it's good that they were able to talk together after that day. It's raining again and Shiori realizes that he doesn't have an umbrella. He wonders what to say and how to end this event. He wonders how to cement future plans and struggles to think of something, but Shiori asks him if he wants to come over because her parents aren't home.
Yes! 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 Yes!
I'm just kidding, she's just going back to her dorm.
No! 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 Shit!
He agrees and thanks her for inviting him over. She tells him to wait outside to make sure everything is clean, and he wonders if this is really about to happen. Major points for Team Shiori. She invites him in and he goes inside. He tells her that the furniture is all the same in his room, so it feels like he's at home. She asks if she could sit next to him as if it's not her home, and blushes while she's next to him. He says it smells amazing and asks her if this is the quality stuff. She tells him that it's pretty much the real deal, without realizing that he's talking about the coffee. They sit and read books together like an old couple, and he thinks that he's way too happy right now to read a single word out of the manga. He thinks her outfit is modest, and her skin is so pale, and she smells so nice. She catches him looking at her and asks him if anything about her looks weird. He tells her that he was just wondering what she's reading.
You know, it's been
She tells him it's really good and that she'll lend it to him sometimes. She then tells him that she'll go into her room and stares in the mirror. She wonders if she was too pushy for inviting him over and wonders if he hates her now. At the same time, he wonders if she hates him because he won't take the lead, but realizes that he's in a room alone with a girl, so he has to be overly careful with her. He realizes that she's not overly assertive with anyone, so she must like him if she did this, and decides that he wants to talk to her about this. She comes barging out and tells him to look outside. They look outside at the double rainbow, and they think it's cool. She tells him to take a selfie with him, and they take a photo together. He asks her to send a photo of it to him. He wonders if now is the time to talk to her, and she shows him another photo of them together, and tells him that she loves this photo. He sees Akari, and Shiori asks him if he was about to say something. He tells her never mind and that he's forgotten. They look at the rainbow together, and he realizes he's been running away from romance all this time. At home, he wonders why he decided not to say anything at that moment. He gets messages and thinks it's from the legend himself, 3D Kun, but doesn't want to deal with him. However, he keeps getting spammed and sees it's from Akari. She tells him that she's bored, and he replies that he also is. She gets embarrassed and thinks she hates this, wondering why she's so nervous since it's just Jiro. She tells him that they'll meet outside the train station in 2 hours, and Jiro wonders how this is happening. He wonders if this is a trap and that she might just be making fun of him in front of her friends.
It's an evil world we live in.
But then he calms down and wonders if she's being serious about going out just as friends. He decides to show up 10 minutes early, and he ends up waiting an extra 15 minutes. As he's ready to leave, she comes running and apologizes for being so late, telling him that it took her longer than usual to get ready today. She tells him that she told him it's a date and put in a lot of effort just to get ready, so there's no way she wouldn't show up. She asks him if she looks cute, and he struggles to say something. He tells her it's not what she usually wears, and that she looks very nice. She thanks him and tells him that this outfit is only for him because she knows he likes this sort of thing, and he wonders why she's doing this to suit his taste. She grabs his hand and begins running, telling him she has a ton of places to go with him. They go to a shop and she asks him what she should get. He tells her he doesn't even know which way is up right now, and wonders why Akari is doing this with him right now. She asks him if he remembers this cafe, and he tells her that he remembered it was a favorite of hers from the TV. She's surprised he remembered, and tells him to try his chocolate drink for the first time. She asks him if it's bitter and tells her it is a little. She tells him she wants to try his big black straw, and tells him that his black cream is super bitter. He wonders if Akari has always been like this. They go to a kitty cafe, and Akari calls them cute. He thinks that he's used to seeing Akari smile every day, but he would have never thought she would be like this when he first met her. Akari plays with the cats, and Jiro tells her that she's been spamming the kawaii button ever since they've gotten here. She tells him that they are so cute, and she tells him to pet her pussy. Jiro thinks that playing games all day and night was the real thrill of summer break, but having days like this sometimes would be fun too. She tells him that she'll send him the picture of them together, and he sees the photo. He thinks that this picture looks kind of like a family photo. He tells her that the cat looks like their baby, and realizes what he just said. She starts laughing, and she tells him it would be nice if they could keep it as a pet during the practical. They go up the stairs where they're about to go on the train and leave. She tells him it feels weird that they're going different places, but realizes that it's going to eventually happen. She tells him that she thinks it will be lonely, and realizes that she forgot to get a charm from the shrine. She begins running towards the street, and he tells her to wait up. As they are running, they see Shiori. Akari tells her that she thought Jiro would be holed up in his room, so she thought she'd get him a little sunlight. Shiori asks if they're on their way home, and Akari tells her that she was just going to the shrine. She asks her if she remembers how they first met there, and tells her that she wants to go there too right now. She asks her if she wants to race, and they decide to race each other and make Jiro carry everything. When they get there, they see an old lady who asks if they're okay. They tell her they were just racing. The old lady says that they gave them a fright and asks Jiro if he felt the same way. He tells her that he did. They look at each other after hearing Jiro's name. Akari thinks that he really does look like Jiro, and they laugh at each other. Poor Jiro just did the workout of his life and made it here.
ここって確か恋愛成就で有名なんだよな。俺は。
Thank you guys for joining me, but this is not the end of their story. In the next semester, Jiro, Akari, and Shiori will be going on more adventures, and they are all finally at a rank. Till then, my fellow plot legends.